You have like the threat of the storm in the afternoon when it's ending anyway, it's not a bad thing, so. Considering there have been other, yeah, it always rains, it's when it rains, that kind of dictates how bad it is, right?
Anybody has any feelings about the little arts and crafts?
Because it's in the house, we gave them permission to do. There's a hole, and I'm kind of wondering if it pours with rain, what's gonna happen inside, because there's nothing left. I'm not even sure the floor is still there.
Well, I was surprised at how much it took away from
Thank you.
the arts and crafts aspect.
It's a character defining feature.
What?
It's a character defining feature. You know, losing that chimney, it is a character defining feature, and if you take it away, it really does greatly alter the building. You are completely correct.
I didn't struggle with that.
Yeah, we went back and forth.
Okay. Is it 5 o'clock somewhere? It's 5:01. Everybody good?
Yep.
We will call the meeting of the Historic Preservation and Architectural Review Board of the Village of Cooperstown to order. Thank you, everybody, for being here on such a lovely night. We do not have a public hearing anymore, so we will move on to item number 1 on the regular agenda, 11 Lakeview Drive. Joe, would you like to come talk to us?
Sure. Should I sit, stand? Right there's great.
Standing is
Great,
good.
thank you. Deck first? Sure. I think we, in the previous meeting, in the first of the meetings, we went over the deck, the general idea. We were just waiting on material stuff, and I had supplied that, the samples of the materials. Nothing really special, just I believe what I provided was moisture shields, decking, and then also some aluminum railing. And did you guys have the pictures of the? And I also had another thing that I was just wanted to make sure I was in that original meeting. I had the printout of the floor plan with the deck on it, with the size of the deck, and the fact that we pulled some measurements, which you can probably double check on the tax map, but it was well within the setbacks. Because the other property line is like more than 50 feet.
So you're talking about this?
Yep, that's it. And then I had an overhead view. I can show you that. I pulled it up on my phone. But I mean, it basically says the deck's coming 12 feet off the house. The property line behind the house is 50 feet away or so, roughly. So, oh, there they are. Nice, sweet. So these are, basically this or comparable. You can't really see it from the road, so, I mean.
Decking?
Yep,
So the material.
composite, so it has wood in it. So. It's not completely plastic.
That just means it swells up.
Yeah, right. And then the railing is just an aluminum white railing, basically, just a simple, nothing special. So.
Aluminum.
Yep.
Okay, which are these both colors being used, or is that just?
Those are two different choices. I think she's gonna go more like an earth tone sort of kind of looks like that.
Any questions about the decking and railing material proposed? And it's going to be as drawn here, so there's not going to be a deck extending as it gets closer to the ground, or the railing, I'm sorry, extending.
Yeah, basically, I just said for her, if she wants to have more railing, she can, but that's by code.
Yeah.
I just was putting it wherever she would need it. Because I think they kind of wanted to just be able to walk off there very easily if they, on the spot that kind of comes up to the grade from there. And they could always, if they wanted to change that down the line, they could add more, but.
Okay, no other questions?
What's the nature of the screening?
That's actually,
Is that existing?
yeah, that's just That's not gonna really change right now. Over here, the carport, that's just a simulation of it.
So you're
There's no-
leaving the existing in place?
Yeah, right now, she doesn't want to really mess with that, so. So basically now it's just that we approved the one window on the back in the last meeting, the slider, just replacing the existing slider, taking the one window out and putting a window in. Siding, smart siding, that was all stuff we did before. And now we're just kind of going over the deck because it was getting late last meeting. And I just said, at that time, they were thinking about holding off until next year. So I said, well, let's just let everybody go to bed and not talk about this right now. But then between this meeting and last meeting, they decided they wanted to do the shorter window, which is the next thing on the list, the field change for this.
Right, I think it's been discussed before. I mean, I have concerns again about the proposed change in the window, but I'll let other people ask questions or, Betsy, do you have anything you'd like to ask
On the deck?
on the window?
On the window, I would like to see the window retain its original, you know, its original proportions and light size personally. It's one of the few character defining features of this building. But, you know, I guess I kind of feel like, should we really worry about people looking in the house?
I don't even think it's that. I think it's just the functionality of the space inside. I think that, she was shooting for the stars. Hopefully she can land on the moon with like a window that comes like, 20 inches off the ground,
Fine.
I mean, it's, it's not gonna be that far off the ground. So off the floor. It's gonna be a pretty big window still. It's just that it gives her the ability to have a little bench inside.
A little boot bench.
Yeah, and it's just, because originally, I mean, the whole plan was, her whole, we were, gonna bump the front wall out. And she wanted a very small window, which I kind of, I didn't know that was gonna happen. But we conceded to keep the alcove there, which then changed the whole idea of trying to put a stairs in the middle of the house to access the basement to eliminate the other stairwell. So that's something we're gonna have to change. So she's made a lot of accommodations, and I think this being the only thing that she's asking for when doing all this work is to have a little bit more functionality by bringing that window up.
So basically, you're gonna cut out the lowest row of lights.
Yeah,
And the rest of it will be the same proportion for
Yeah.
the windows exactly.
yeah,
Just instead,
right. Because like last meeting, I just approved an in-kind window, basically, the same size. And then she was just like, I really, really want to do this. And I said, okay, well, we'll go back and we'll do another drawing and we'll show them what it looks like and with the alcove and, a shorter window and everything.
So
I also gave Jackson like a little link for animation that you guys can.
you haven't kept the window configuration in this drawing. The window configuration here is nothing like.
That was
so-
that's the shorter one.
Right,
It isn't the same number of lights.
it's not the same number of lights, not the same configuration. This is sort of generic, square Palladian.
Mhm.
This is a set of windows that are this way, and it's like a tic-tac-toe board.
Mhm.
This is not the same thing,
Well, that
and
was
this
just-
is too far. If you're gonna keep the same configuration of this window and just cut out the lowest row of lights, it's a very different appearance from what is drawn in the drawing. I'll go out for it.
Well, we had provided last meeting, you guys had basically, that's the same window and the specs of the window are the same ones it's the same window that you guys approved last meeting. Okay,
No, I don't
it's just
think so.
short. No, you approved the specs of the window that you approved last meeting are the same window, except for that one is shorter. So on the specs, the actual specs that I provided, that's the window that was approved. It's just the same window and it's just shorter, that's it.
No, it's-
So I was just making a drawing, trying to just give you a basic idea of that look.
When they shortened it, did they just remove a row of lights or did they change? the
Yes, I mean, it was
dimensions
just,
of the light?
the dimension of the window
How about-
changed, I mean, and it
Have the
basically,
dimensions of the light divisions changed, I think is the question, right?
The window that is here is a 16 light configuration. It goes floor to ceiling. They're all the same size, and I don't think it actually opens, or maybe they open with little cranky things.
Yeah, the two
This is
sides
what's
are,
shown here is 3 double hung windows.
For 2 double hung.
yeah,
in the center.
I put those in, the side windows are operable, basically, and the,
If you want
Middle one.
operable, then what would come closer to what you're replacing is to put a fixed window here and make these operable on the side, but there's 3 lights deep, which is much more typical of the period when the house was built. And this would be a crankable window instead of a double hung. But that would be much more characteristic. What's drawn there is sort of late 1990s AutoCAD stuff, which isn't the same thing.
I mean, it's basically. Last time. And I took another 20 inches off the window.
What do you need to go for height?
Yeah, I just showed you that specs of a window that was the same size, and there were 2 different options.
But it wasn't the same configuration of lights.
It was a very similar size window, and there was never any discussion that the lights had to remain the same or anything like that. We were just
I think we've said all along, Joe, from the beginning when this was presented, that the window is a defining feature. That's why we didn't want to change the inset of the entryway. And I think I understand you're asking for some accommodation in
right.
the height, but really, this is a dramatically different window. I honestly don't remember what we approved or if we approved anything at the
And
last.
the window that I get with the window, siding, and back window, slider.
This is the shingle.
It's not the shingle side, it's the smart side.
And if we approve something, it's visual. Right?
It's like
It's visual.
visual.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if you take 2 feet off the bottom of the window, you change the visual nature of the whole facade, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that is the struggle. It does significantly change the character of the front of the house.
I guess the question is too, what is, so if this house is, you know, we're definitely trying to, you know, stay within a boundary of what you guys are considering, but we're definitely trying to like go by whatever you guys are concerned, you know, on this, but the house is not on a list, an official list, continuation list, whatever it may be. So at what point is this, you know what I mean, like we're trying to, I guess I'm just saying that we're doing a lot here to try to, you know, meet the middle. No,
Well,
it's not as historical of a house, obviously,
it is more, we are
I'm not trying to like, you know,
it just because.
I'm not trying to bump you guys. I'm just saying, just trying to be reasonable, I guess, for this.
And what we're trying to do is any house in the village have it maintain as much of its original character as possible. So it's not that it's not historical because it wasn't built in 1804 or 1904. We are trying to say this is a defining feature of the house as it was built, this vestibule and the window, and that's why we are trying to maintain it. Because it really is what defines the character of that house, as well as that kind of carport that's been covered up.
Carport has been covered up.
Well, with the lattice, that your client didn't do that, but that carport to the right, that was once a carport, I'm assuming. But those are kind of the character defining features of this. Otherwise, when they were asking to bump out that inset area, that would have made it look like any other kind of nondescript
Right,
house.
I get it.
Um,
No, and we're not arguing with that at all. Not something that we consider. You know, we're gonna have a relatively large window in there, filling up a pretty fair amount of that space. Keeping the door the same, having home in the same spot. And you know, again, I'm not trying to, I don't think I'm trying to be unreasonable. You know,
it's just a pretty dramatic change, and what we were asking for, and I'm just trying to find the file on my computer, so I'm not ignoring you. I don't, okay, thank you, Jackson. What we were asking for is if they wanted a shorter window, that the other aspects of the window, the number of lights and the dimensions of the lights remain the same, cutting out that lowest course of lights. That was our understanding in terms of a compromise. And so, you
so
know.
what I'm looking for, when I'm looking at windows, I'm also trying to mix, you know, a little bit of, trying to make this economical for them as well. These are still very expensive marble windows. So we're trying to find something within the portfolio of a somewhat standard size window. And make this something that's, you know, mixing a little bit of the form that you guys are looking for in the function. Otherwise, just adding more and more cost for them. You know what I mean? And I'm just trying to, you know, I'm stuck in the middle, which you guys are very used
We can
to.
ask the same. Is it deteriorating?
It's not really functional and it's not, it doesn't really, it's not a very insulated window. It's pretty the same thing.
When you say it's not functional,
It doesn't overflow. Yeah, I think it's.
The idea was to let light in, it wasn't,
Right.
but you could see, you could, I mean, if you look at casements that mimic the opening, I realize we're not supposed to do design for it, but this is, but you can achieve it with two casements and a fixed window in the middle that would give you functionality and
Let's look at the specs of the window.
And is this window fitting into the opening, or do you have to expand the opening?
I believe that we're trying to stay within.
Because that's, in the drawing, it looks like it does not fit needs.
I think we're going in a little bit.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
that was, again, a standard, just a standard window that we're looking for. Did you show?
I can see it. Does anybody else want to see it?
With the 5 feet of the hole to see if you could do something that was more in keeping architecture with the house, such as casement side lights and fewer light divisions in the center of Jesse's.
I mean, this is what I would ask. If we are to try and find another window with Doug, can I send this to you guys instead of having to do this in another month? Because this is, you know, I mean, I understand what you guys are doing, and I'm trying my best to, like, you know, try to go with all the rules and stuff like that. I just, at this point, we just need to get something over because the lead times are so long. And if you guys don't mind, if we could, Doug and I can discuss a little bit more, and we could at least try to get the window size, the shorter window size.
So of course, shorter.
Yep, and then
otherwise-
I have no problem looking for like a bay even. This is not really a bay window.
No, and it shouldn't be.
Right, I mean, I know bay windows do have that configuration, but we can, I'll look for the book and if you guys feel better with the easement on both sides. And I can try and make everything work as much as I can, but I just ask you, please just email you guys something and get an okay. And then order the window. That's one of the biggest problems is having to wait a month in between these things. You know, especially now, it's one thing when lead times are 2 or 3 weeks, but
People come longer.
right.
Was the shirt drawing, Jesse? So
Just looking at what the configuration is.
I do not have a problem with that. It clearly shows us the dimensions of the existing opening. The dimensions the window will be, we have accurate measurements all around. For example, just because this drawing looks like it does not stay within the dimensions of the existing opening on the sides. So we want to have a clear sense of how that's going to be proportionally. Are people comfortable with Jackson circulating the comparisons and voting by unanimous kind of weighing in to communicate?
Can we throw away on check?
I don't think it's fair to do that. This is-
So if I show you the actual specs.
And the actual size of the opening and that how the specs of that window will fit into that opening.
Now, again, I mean, we can stick with them, span size. But I have to go beyond the mark.
I understand, but we need some clear measurements.
Yeah.
So this is the opening that removing this window is going to cause, and these are the specs for the window we're going to put in, and then how much is going to be filled in. Okay.
As long as we, if I can try to get this done.
I understand. It's a dramatic change. If you can find something that's going to more appropriately reflect what's being replaced, that would be ideal. We'd ask it of any other homeowner, so. I don't know if there should be a approval. I think we will do an email weighing in of the board for approval. Never done it before, but
So, listen, that,
Times are different from what they were before.
But, okay, so if I show you this drawing, if I just kick these casings out a little bit more, make this window a casement window, this window a casement window,
And tuck it in.
and tuck them in, oh, I mean, basically, I'm not tucking it in.
I wanna know, how's it gonna fit into the hole that's gonna be left?
Yeah,
Yeah, I wanna see.
no, I mean, basically, that window takes up this whole space. So, I mean, you're talking about, it's like a few inches on either side, so if I show you that it's all casing in that picture, would that be suffice? And
I would
if
like
this
the
was-
measurements of what's going out,
Okay.
the space, and what's going in, so we really are clear.
We know how to read measurements.
Oh, I know, I'm just, it's a visual.
Yeah, I think we need the measurements, because the visual can be a little deceptive in terms of, we need to get a sense of
Mhm.
how it's gonna fill the space, and if the measurements are gonna be different, are we talking a total of 6 inches, are we talking a total of a foot, are we talking about more than that? So we have a clear understanding of how that's gonna change. Okay?
Okay.
And Jessie drew a drawing of, like she said, we're not supposed to design, but as an example of how that might work with casements. So if you'd like to
You're welcome to take that.
refer to that.
Mhm.
But this is not the board designing for you.
Mm-mm.
It's me looking at it and saying, it could work this way. So,
Thank you, Joe. I know this has been a lot of negotiating with your clients, but we really appreciate it.
I just do what I'm told.
This house is,
Yeah, it's one of the things that still retains some sense of total way toward our house.
it really, the reason for this board is to try to maintain that, especially street facing view. Now, especially because this house faces the street on 3 to 4 sides, or where.
maybe someday in the house will be a stop on a tour. Like,
You're very well good, you know, and the example of, you know, the defining characters will be present, so, I mean, I think that's.
I've come to appreciate the outdoor a little bit more.
Thank you.
Who said to me, "We'll be here." Yeah, I'm like, "It's too cold in here." And I'm going to drink my life. Can we do the deck for a time? So we can get that on the deck?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for remembering that, Trustee. Okay, would anybody like to make a motion regarding the proposed deck? Thank you.
The board, okay, under section 300-2016-E, no public hearing required to add a deck to the back of rear wall of the east, west facing wall of the garage. The board, determines that, it is, proposed plan is compatible in terms of the, 3A, 3B. I think 3D is okay. I think that was.
Yeah, 3D drawing too.
Yeah.
We're here all night.
I think that covers it for now.
I think so.
Okay, great, we can cover that.
So when I send the windows, I'm sorry,
Okay, no,
Yeah.
I'll just send like a screenshot and then just another quick view animation thing. You just click on.
And a clarification on the measurements.
Yeah, no, in the screenshot, I'll have measurements and then you can see, I'll try to tighten everything up. With measurements.
Measurements of
And
the
you can click on the link and the link will show you. Yeah.
Yeah, so Jackson, I'll please send that. And just, this is the opening, when the window is removed, this is the size of the window we're putting in. So we're clear on that. Okay, and it will be a field change, as this will be new to this board, but since we had voted on something and it'll be a field change, as long as everybody's comfortable with that, we'll move forward with that. So as soon as you get that to Jackson, he'll get it to us and we'll all try to kind of nudge each other to return responses within a day or so. Okay,
Maybe it will all end up the same because the lead times are going down, so.
well, that's good news.
Okay, so we'll do that next time. Go through where this front windows overlap. and then we're off and running.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. I will give you a second.
Okay.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I heard you.
Yeah. Okay. Rigby is, and our friends from Intelligent Green Solutions. How are you, Alex? Good, good. So, would you like to tell us what you'd like to do to Mr. and Mrs. Rigby's home?
Yeah, we're doing 24 panel solar array on the southern western facing roofs, which are the 3-story roof, flat roof. We're not visible from the road, and we're doing all of the electrical on the interior, which is typical for us. Usually we do exterior, but kind of preserve the exterior. We're going through some internal chambers to avoid all that, and the only change visible will be on our inverter J box. Exteriorly mounted right next to the meter, which is 17 inches in height, 14 inches in width, comes out about 6 inches. Everything else will be completely interior and we're on a flat roof.
Do we have any questions?
If we determine that solar panel.
They're reversible, yeah, so I don't think, I think when people are coming to us for review, we're not turning it away, but, yeah, we're generally not, yeah, we're not discouraging people from putting.
Yeah, that was maybe 3 years ago. Makes a lot of sense.
Okay, does anybody have any questions though about the configuration, meter box or anything else? Anything you like to make a motion? Okay, Dave, wait a second. Dave, any discussion? Okay, Ms. Stokes, yes? No?
Yes.
Okay,
Thanks so much.
wonderful. Thanks, Jackson. Okay, 42 Delaware Street. Good night. Hi.
Adam Sittler here, representing the residents and doctors of 42 Delaware, and got the preliminary exterior plans from the architects, so hopefully everybody's had a chance to review those. But the main portion of the project, the proposed project, is to remove this like a metal addition mudroom thing that was put on, probably in the 70s, in the back of the property. Remove that with a similar size addition that would have a full basement that would connect to the existing home and have the new mudroom and there's an existing deck in the back, and that would be removed for this as well and replaced with a raised stone terrace and patio. All the windows that are proposed for the mudroom, as well as ones for the upstairs, would be the Marvin Wood series, and currently in the home, upstairs is all vinyl windows that were replaced at some point. But they are just single lights that are traditional to the home from the clients. They could provide pictures if necessary. They have some historic ones that show that that's what was originally in the home. And then another portion of it is with the addition, and then over the next couple of years, they'd like to replace the existing vinyl siding with the LP Smart side. We're going to use all wood trim though, all wood for all the components to the back porch, and everything there is modeled to mimic the existing front porch, which I realize a mistake was mine. I don't think I provided you with any pictures of that front porch at the moment, but basically everything that the architect drew is similar in scale. The only difference is the existing front railing is quite a bit shorter and wouldn't pass code, so you drew it if you were at current building.
Do you have the architectural drawings? Yeah. Sorry, keep going.
Well, I mean, it's open to questions at this point, or if you want me to continue on. But one thing that I will say, only change is really just some of the windows upstairs. Is on the third page, you'll see the proposed new plan for the upstairs, and he would like us to separate a double unit into two separate windows. This wall here to accommodate the new bathroom and office space for the existing plans that are together. And then the other window change would be because of the roof line, the new mudroom. We would have to shorten these windows slightly to what they currently are, but again, those are vinyl windows that have been replaced. So the width of them is very similar to what is currently there. It's just those ones would be shortened some to account for that roof.
The width of the two windows that are.
I'm sorry, the height of those two master bedrooms that are facing the
Okay.
back side. Yeah.
The width will be the same.
Yep.
Yeah, I have a question about those windows in terms of their design. That rear L, I'm pretty sure is a later addition to the original house. There was something else on the back of that house to start with, and then the one with the pyramidal back side of the roof, that's probably 1920s, 1930s. So it's a change to the original plan. And I suspect that the windows that were used at the time were nowhere near as good as the quality of the windows that were in the front of that building. And so they got replaced by Wanda and her husband with vinyl. But the windows that are drawn in the drawing, the headers, the head of the casing breaks into the frieze line of the building, and that's incorrect. It should be flush like it is on the front of the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I just have to, you're talking about these upper ones here.
Yep, they were, and you can see in the main house, they don't break the freeze, but they actually been brought up almost right to the bed molding on the L that's being reworked. So, I'd like to see that change. I think that the plan overall is a good plan. Getting rid of that back deck would be very pleasant.
Jesse, is it because they're so high currently?
Yeah, they're all.
Yeah, but that-
They're maintaining the original openings because the clients certainly don't want to get into reframing openings that we don't have plans to
Yes.
address any other work with.
No, these, what's going on here? Okay, let me show you what's going on here. If you look at the front of the house, this header,
Well, that's not the front. I mean,
I'm sorry,
it's not hard to do, but that's the back still, that's the main.
that's the
portion.
back
Main
block of the house.
section, yeah.
Okay, this has a Queen Anne header on top of it. And these, instead of having the Queen Anne header, they come flush with the top with the frieze. So in other words,
But this is all vinyl siding currently.
but it reflects what's going on underneath, what was going on. So this is your
Well,
frieze.
we don't know, I mean, I'm not trying to argue with you, but we don't really know what, especially on this back addition, what was reflected under there without taking the vinyl siding off. We're seeing some kind of.
As someone who does remember architectural history, I can make a pretty good guess that what's going on is that this window came directly up to here and there was no.
Jesse, once
header
they
here.
remove the siding or the window, they'll know what was.
Yes, they will. So,
I mean, our plan is basically to do this project in stages where when the mudroom gets built, we would strip this side and this side because we have to obviously address those issues and tie the new into the old.
right,
So at that point, I mean, I'm more than happy to work with you and show you. I just know one of the main things for the reds and ducters was, since this plan is kind of all encompassing, was to not create more work in their master bedroom than is necessary.
that's
And
fine.
to keep, the openings basically where they are and maintain egress and so on and so forth.
What I would say is probably just dispense with the molding on the top. So you're gonna, I think you'll find that they come directly up and sit next to the frieze. But,
So just change not the window itself, but just the fact that this is showing that trim detail. is what
yeah,
you're talking about.
no trim detail on the head. Why not take off the aluminum, the vinyl siding and see what's underneath rather than immediately going to the assumption you're putting on LP?
Well, for one, it's basically considering what's going on with supply chain and prices more than anything, it's next to impossible. Clear hemlock that we traditionally were using, or cedar, basically everything's finger jointed now, and I'm not, haven't been doing this as long as some people, but I don't feel comfortable putting a finger jointed product on the exterior of somebody's home.
Has anybody taken the vinyl up to see if the siding is salvageable, the existing siding?
I bet that he's got tried that as a deteriorated.
I mean, I could speak to the reds and ducters more about what they've done in terms of exploring it. We could explore.
But I missed the answer about
The
the
window on the.
assessing the condition of the side, current siding.
We certainly could, I just can't believe that would be a cost effective.
So, well, you mean on the back, but on the original.
The main block, the original main block was molded, but underneath the frieze.
Well, I would assume that when they built it, was going to go back. We're using the same opening.
But the back of the house wasn't built at the same time.
I'd like to see what's underneath there, but that's not, the back of the house, I bet there were no bed moldings. There were no bed moldings on the back of the house.
But we're talking we're trying to
Right,
replicate the
so
original house, not the addition.
why would you want to replicate and why not work with original material from both historic periods? They're both historic periods,
When was that addition done?
1920s, 1930s.
Well, I mean,
That's my street, I know it really well. What I can tell you is that many houses on that street received an addition between 1900 and 1930. And
okay,
that, what they did was they would take off an old mudroom on the back or an old woodshed, because many of them were using wood, and or partly wood, and then they would replace them with something else, and that's a replacement. But it's a 1920s, 1930s addition, and it has a different aesthetic from the rest of the house. And that's because they were designing in their own medium. So that, I mean, it's just,
well,
it's like gussying up a house that wasn't gussied up, which is not what historic preservation should be doing.
well, I wish, unfortunately, the architect who was going to join me tonight, he had something come up last minute, so I think he would probably have a better retort to that than maybe I could come up with, so I'm not gonna, say anything that I can't speak on. To answer your question about the LP Smart side, really, it's something that has a much higher warranty than any of the current wood products that are out there. Literally, you cannot buy at the local lumber yards, whether it's Bruce Hall's, Munson's, Curtis Lumber, none of them have a non-finger jointed wood product available right now. It is.
Whitman's doesn't.
No, well, they have a pine that I believe is not even a select grade, so it has knots. And they have a finger jointed spruce product that's pre-primed.
I think your point was well taken though, and that is that the siding that's under the vinyl might be vastly better than anything you could possibly find.
Yeah, but if we're getting into changing, the windows and I mean, listen, I don't think any of us can speculate what it truly looks like under there. You could be right, but I think the idea for the clients or their feeling, and I second it, is to replace it with what would be on the mudroom and then start to carry that around through the house when, the LP clapboard, when it's painted and installed, other than there not being a bevel on it, there really is no,
So
there's no difference between, it's a wood product, it has a wood veneer on the OSB composite substrate. And really the only thing here is instead of it being beveled, it's just a flat sawn product.
Because you can pick it out from across the
Yeah.
street. It's anybody who goes through it knows.
I'm not used throughout the village on many projects, so
Construction, yes.
what's that?
For new construction.
No, not only new construction. I know,
it depends on the condition of the clapboards. It has been approved in some situations when the clapboards.
so it has been
in-
approved, so
when
it's
the
not just new
clapboards have
construction.
been in poor condition.
Okay, but then and again, I'm not, Yep.
Let me step back. So the plan, because it wasn't clear to me, is to eventually reside the whole house.
that's what the clients would like, and they like something that would be less maintenance and, given today's material market, something that could be within their budget, because to get something like select, you would have to use either like a Spanish cedar product or hope that maybe next year you could start to get some of these things again, but I don't know if we can assume that.
When I looked at it, I was not looking at it with the residing the whole house as part of,
I mean,
And
it's
I don't
vinyl
think-
sided now though, too. I mean,
the whole house.
the whole house is vinyl side with vinyl J's and metal wrapped windows. I mean, there isn't a piece of wood other than the porch
But
that's on the.
it's all underneath there.
I know, but would you rather them, say I come back to them and I have to then either,
You're talking to someone who scraped her entire house.
I know, ma'am, but everybody's kind of different too. I think we all can agree on that. And just because you scraped your siding doesn't necessarily mean that they want to have to scrape their siding, especially if it's been patched and hacked. We don't know. I mean, all I'm saying is, if you guys want to reevaluate that portion of the project when we strip it, I'm happy to talk about that. But I think it's a bit of an assumption on anyone's part to say, we're gonna pull that vinyl siding off and it's gonna be in better quality than some product I could put on there new. I mean, I think that that's.
I wasn't making that assumption. I'm just saying that. when you
Yeah,
examine it, You could end up with better quality.
I'm on, listen, if it came off and it was beautiful and all it needed was, I have no problem with that. I can't speak completely for the Reds and Dutchers, but I would think that they would be ecstatic with that. But I do think, because some of the issues that they've told me before with some pipes freezing and some that, again, I don't want to totally assume what they know about the home, but I have a feeling too that some of that's been opened up and that they know that what's underneath there is not salvageable. Yeah.
It's just an alternative that you might, you and they might want to consider, only in terms of the crappy stuff that you have to buy to get.
Yep, agreed. Yeah.
And the appearance of what is one of the most prominent and lovely houses on that street will change with LP Smart Side. It will be discernible. And
Over the vinyl, I mean, that's my only argument. Again, I
understand
know
that
what you guys are trying to do
That's
too.
why
but-
we discourage removing original fabric. In a sense, the vinyl is encapsulating the clapboards. And the goal would be to see the condition of the clapboards before a discussion of
Oh,
whether to smart.
That's,
side or
I
not.
have no problem with that. I think that makes a lot of sense.
That would be our ideal.
Yep,
Because it really would make the most sense from a sustainability approach, from a conserving original materials approach, to understand the condition of the clapboards. The assumption shouldn't be that it's impossible to find good wood products. Yes, we have allowed in some circumstances the use of smart side, but in others, we really highly encouraged homeowners to preserve their wood or replace with wood, and they have, and you know.
the only thing I'll say is, and I agree with you, and it's just to put it in perspective though, like up until a year ago, the pre-primed hemlock that was a non-finger jointed clapboard that Halls sold, that Munson sold, it was basically $1.10 a foot. So for a 16-foot board, it was, little close to $20, where Smart Side was in that same price. Then up until last fall, that almost doubled, and now they can't even get it. So it's just a bit, I don't know, considering the times we're in, it's a bit tough to just assume that there's a comparable wood product out there. That's
why the original siding might be a comparable wood product.
Right.
And so
Maybe a better wood product, possibly.
I think, we can talk about approving aspects of this, but we would really like to encourage the homeowners, and they're welcome to come and meet with us, to remove, since the vinyl is coming down, remove the vinyl strategically and assess the condition of the clapboards. In the rear section, it's new construction. If they're choosing, they can, I would not have a problem with them using LP Smart Side, but not to assume that once the vinyl is removed, that LP Smart Side is gonna wreck the house then.
Is this gonna go over the original siding?
I'm sorry.
Is the LP Smart siding gonna go over?
No, because part of,
You have to take-
I guess I omitted this too, not just by mistake, that one of the reasons I like to strip the house down to the sheathing was because there's just so much heat loss, and they've had so many different, issues with their insulation. So basically, while the house was opened up, wherever we were changing windows, not opening up walls from the interior, we're gonna take that opportunity to strip the siding, put an adequate insulation on the inside, and
What
put
kind of
some,
insulation?
we would probably use the Roxol, like a rock wool bat insulation in the walls, and then an R sheathing on top of the actual plywood sheathing to mimic the same characteristics of the addition.
So you're gonna strip the sheeting on the exterior?
If needed, depending on what we find, really. It's their hope is that to basically do the outside of the house, which they've never done, and just have it be a comfortable finished house for them to retire into and stay for. So we're not gonna do work that we don't need to do, but they've complained, about a lot of, I know they've had pipes burst in 2 different bathrooms in the home. from lack of insulation and just to try to achieve as much insulation value as we can.
Not that it's our purview, but I would think open cell foam would be a lot easier to apply.
Blown in.
Yeah, I mean, if you go with an open cell everywhere though, then you're getting into tightening that building up much more than it ever, like, to tighten the walls up, especially in some areas, and then not in the roof itself, then I mean, I'm not a building scientist, but if you're gonna go with a spray foam thing, then you really should go with a air to air exchanger. And that might, if we're not, especially depending on what gets approved and not approved, to spray foam certain areas of the house and have that be totally tight and non-breathable compared to other areas that are breathing, then it's not gonna work that well with the air exchanger either, so.
That house has a pretty chopped up floor plan, so it might not be such a big deal.
I'm sorry, what?
The house has a pretty chopped up floor plan, so it's, you know, it's got the big open spaces on the first floor, but the upstairs is all these funny little pockets. And
Yeah, but I mean, have you looked at the plan? The plan for any interior work is only to be done in that master suite area.
But what I'm saying is that you're not, and having different insulation modes in different parts of the building may not be as big a deal as something that's an open plan where it's all moving at the same time.
Well, I mean, sure, I guess there's a lot of debate about spray. There's a lot of debate about spray foam right now. Not that I'm not an expert on it, but I've read some, and I think for a historic board to be pushing that spray foam is the only option to utilize is.
That's not what's
It's
happening.
not what we're saying, but
Well-
there are options that prevent you from saying we have to strip all the sheathing
Blown
to
in
insulate.
cellulose.
Blown in cellulose, I've done on historic
You'll
structures,
get a
and
lot
it's
out of
great.
R5
And that
sheeting.
works great as long as there's not vents in the building, you know, that are obstructing them when they blow it in, or that, you know, if this is a balloon frame building, then there's a lot of variables there too, depending on how well.
Have they had
blown
an
it
energy audit where somebody who knows the different types of insulation and might really be able to determine the best approaches?
I mean, an energy audit, if this is really about insulating the building, there should be a good quality energy audit first.
I guess, and I'm not trying to be rude, but what, are we kind of going down a road too that doesn't need to be, I mean, I thought the idea of all of this was to approve the exterior
Well,
portions of, I mean.
Question, are you removing the
It-
sheeting, the exterior sheeting?
As the homeowners, their intent and what they would like to see happen is, as we get into the project, open things up, anything that should be addressed, they would like addressed. That's basically the umbrella of the project. It's not like they're saying, hey, go in there, strip all the siding, all the sheething off, put in all new insulation. That's not the goal. It's as things are stripped, as things are, you know, you can actually see in front of us, then
But
we'll.
that's not, you know, it's not our purview, what you put in there.
I mean, our intent is to just do as good a job as we can while we have that opportunity, instead of pulling the siding off, seeing some wall cavity that has no insulation, then just siding right over it. I mean, that's all I'm doing.
I
I'm
understand
not
that,
trying
and
to-
our intent is to ask that as much of the original fabric of the house, ideally the original clapboards, if they're intact and in decent condition, be maintained, and weighing that in the process of deciding how to insulate, because there are a lot of different products.
Agreed, and I guess I'd like to have that conversation with you guys. If we strip the siding, see that the clapboard's in good condition, then we can have that discussion then. I think it's a bit presumptive to
I think-
go
I
down that
think-
road.
If we can focus on the back section now, which is the section that you're trying to.
Yeah,
work
we're
on.
not, I mean, to be totally transparent too, we're not trying to strip the whole house once this mudroom gets built this fall. I mean, it's a multi-year project, so for some of these decisions to continue to be put off and made at a later date, that's not a concern of mine at all. I really wanted to get the board to look at the overall plan, see what concerns may arise, so that way, if we don't get approved for the addition right now, the architect can address the concerns and we could at least get on the next agenda and not not miss our window to try to get this project in this year.
So
That's,
the single story mudroom,
Mhm.
this rear third
yep,
in the drawing is what we're talking about tonight.
correct. And ideally, the windows themselves that I gave,
In the middle section,
that would be the mudroom and then basically just the upstairs suite there.
okay, in the middle section.
Yep, correct.
Nothing in the front section of the
Nope,
house that
none
has
of,
those two.
none of
Okay.
those are proposed at all in terms of replacing.
Okay, okay, go ahead, Dave.
The Historic Preservation Architectural Review Board has made following findings of facts. Concerning
42.
42 Delaware. It is part of the historic district. Therefore, in accordance with section 326E, 2A, B, C, 3A, B. We can deal with the, the addition texture C. And 5. Or be it resolved, et cetera, et cetera.
So this is just for the back, for that back section?
Yeah,
Right.
new construction.
Yes.
The new construction
And the
of
windows.
mudroom and the replacement of the windows in the middle section as proposed.
The upstairs master.
Anybody want to second that?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, Liz votes yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right, thank you very much, Em.
Just to be clear too, because I want to make sure and go about it that the best way for the clients and you guys, when we say we do the addition this fall, we strip that back section, we look at that clapboard. I take pictures, I come back and show you guys. Is the condition of that clapboard then to be assumed that the rest of the house is like, how do we, like, say that clapboard is in fine shape, we say, we're just gonna keep it now. Then we strip the next side next spring and it's been hacked to bits and it's not even there. I have the opportunity to come back to you and address it at that point, or
Yeah,
is?
change,
It should,
Okay.
it should be, yeah, it should be serial. I'm gonna guess that you're gonna find different siding on the back portion than you will eventually when you get to the main block of the building. The main block of the building is earlier, it probably got slightly narrower, it's got corner boards.
Mhm.
But the back may be quite different in character. It might even be shingled. Just warning you. It's a late craftsman
Yeah.
addition.
Well, I know that this,
Just saying, you know.
this peak is actually shingled above it.
Yeah, well, the shingle peaks are characteristic of
Yeah.
the Queen Anne house, so the main block has the shingle peaks. You may find, you know, but you're gonna find they're different, they're not gonna match.
So I guess we'll just have to take it step by step
Yes,
then.
and
Get the,
it's a field change.
Okay.
It comes back to us. Our most significant concern is that front section, that
Mhm.
street facing
Yep.
and sides view from the street. So that main block is what we would be most concerned about.
Okay,
And they're doing a gorgeous job with the porch. The porch looks terrific,
well, thank you.
so.
That was just replace those rotten old pipes that were holding the thing up
And
there
all that
before,
stuff that was
so.
stored underneath it, oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah, reach out once you get some siding exposed, and I'd be glad to stop by and take a
Okay.
look at it, and others would as well.
Yeah.
All right, not a problem.
Thank you.
I can always chop down the street and
Okay,
have a look. I'm always interested in seeing what's underneath things.
Thank you, Pat. And
So
if,
we have to go through this all again for the next.
no, it'll be a field change.
No, for the next application.
Oh, for the next application.
It should be a
Oh,
second.
that won't be a field change.
Yeah,
That'll be a
no, really
discussion.
should be a second application.
And tell Theo and Beth if they'd like to talk to us about why we're encouraging.
I don't think they'd have a
Maintaining
problem with anything that you're saying in terms of trying to encourage the use of what's there. I think, knowing especially Beth's concerns with that back L corner near the kitchen and the bathroom, that it's always cold, like, They have a beautiful kitchen there. They have no intention of removing just to put insulation. So it's some of those issues, but it's a balancing act. I get
Well,
that.
and we're not discouraging energy efficiency.
Yeah.
There are just a lot of ways to get to that.
Yep,
So,
understood.
And really speaking to, people who have
Well, if
worked
they
on
haven't
these
had,
houses.
if they haven't had an energy audit, it would be illuminating to do one. They're pretty cool
Yeah,
to see it happening.
I'll certainly bring it up to them.
Yeah, and there's, there are a lot of incentives to do energy audits, and once the energy audits are done, incentives related to energy efficiency improvements that they may want to take advantage of too,
Okay.
so.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Great.
I
Up
don't
again.
think we're going
Yeah.
anywhere.
You wanna hear it all?
Oh,
Chips
yeah.
are from the top.
Thank you.
I'll stay standing.
I didn't look at who the applicant was on that one. I just looked at the house. Okay, tell us about 40 Walnut Street.
Basically, the homeowner has painted the exterior 3 times since he's owned it, according to Matt, and paint won't hold. I can't speak on who did the job or anything. I know that you can always do a better job probably of the prep work, whatnot, but there's quite a bit of rot. And he is somebody that came across the Diamond Co LP Smart Side product, approached me about replacing his siding, so we had something that would hold up better, and basically would just like to replace the existing, not the garage breezeway portion, the addition that was done a few years ago, but the main portion of the house with the Smart Side, including the Smart Side trim. And there are moldings throughout. All of those are not currently offered but through Smart Side, so we would use wood moldings where applicable. So it's not like we're proposing just going with a flat, 5/4 by 4 casing to replace what's currently there.
Anybody else gone down and looked at the building?
I do not remember it being painted that many times in my recollection. So that's the kind of concern I have. And it is a south-facing facade, so you get a lot of sun exposure and weather exposure and that.
The other thing I omitted that I should say too is part of the installation of the new siding, we would be putting up a rain screen as well, which furs the siding off of the building about 3/8 of an inch. And that does create that air gap where paint's gonna last quite a bit longer. It's gonna allow moisture to actually wick away from the exterior and go down the outside of the home, as opposed to getting trapped between clapboard. And especially in less efficient homes, that's a major concern, and having that rain screen barrier is something that really does go a long ways in terms of making the exterior products last longer and hold paint longer. So in terms of an argument, beyond the fact that the LP Smart Side with the Diamond Coat product has a 30-year warranty on it, but we're also then going to be able to create that airspace for him, which will really do quite a bit in terms of.
Is that gonna change the reveal under molding?
Yeah.
Windows and doors?
By 3/8, yeah.
It looks like the clavards are really close to the
Mhm.
edge in some spots as it is, right?
Yeah.
Up against that window right now,
Yeah.
meaning the reveal there.
Yeah.
Well, everything would be furred since we're taking the.
So you're gonna further moldings on all.
Yeah, so the windows, there's no proposal in this to change any of the windows and doors,
Okay.
just the siding and the trim. So
But the windows and doors would all have to move, or the moldings anyways, would have to move.
correct, they would protrude out from the window, but usually, on an extruded window, there's 1.5 inches, give or take, so the trim would still be recessed from that window. It's not like it would be proud of the window casing or the window unit itself.
It's all vinyl replacement sessions.
I went down and had a look.
Mhm.
I'm not a carpenter, I'm a painter primarily, and what I would say is that they may have had it painted 3 times, but the person who painted it was a crappy painter and did not do proper prep work, and that's the primary problem. I would say 90% of the siding on that house just needs to be properly scraped down, sanded, and properly painted. 2 coats of primer, 2 coats of top coat, and it would be fine. But there is rot in certain areas that does need to be dealt with. You're right. It's places where the water gets trapped in the return areas. But I don't think that siding is failing, and by and large, and the trim is not failing by and large. It's the paint that's failing, and the paint, we're really looking at a paint job.
Well, I'd say that the cost to get somebody to go in there and sand and prep, to sand and scrape all that wood down to bare wood would probably be more expensive than the cost to install new siding on the house.
And the paint would probably last 15 to 20 years.
Well, but the diamond coat system, I don't know if you all that familiar with it, but it's a 30-year warranty on the actual fading of any of the substrate itself. And that's backed by their proprietary system. The substrate has a 50-year warranty on it. And the colors he's proposing are very dark, which again, on something like a natural wood, it's gonna wear that much quicker. And because this is a engineered product that's a factory applied finish, I don't know, again, I'm not trying to argue with you, but you're not gonna get paint to last 30 years on that clapboard up against the house with no rain screen on it, with bad
No,
insulation.
of course, paint isn't gonna last 30 years, but we're talking about original material again, just as we were with the last conversation. Is the reveal exactly the same with the?
You can make it, and it's not like it's a vinyl product where you're stuck with a factory. We would do the exact same installation, so your siding would lap over the casings of the, the windows, so it traditionally would be. The nice thing with the LP is it's blind nailed, so you're actually nailing it above, and then the next clapboard is actually going over that nail. Whereas traditionally, you're nailing below. It's the only difference in my mind, I guess it's, everybody's got an opinion, but that it isn't, there's one other product we could discuss if you don't like the LP. It's called a Boral True Exterior clapboard, which is actually made of different fly ashes and things, and that has a beveled profile to it. But this one, it isn't, and you do have to leave about 1/8 of an inch gap, where it meets the corner board, and then you caulk that with a color match caulking. So that's some of the installation / visible characteristics that would be slightly different.
And I guess I'm looking at the second floor reveal in the siding, it looks very tight. Do you know what that reveal is between each board?
It varies because it's all, they're basically changing the pattern, so that way that one clapboard runs along the top of the head casing. So that, my understanding is a very traditional, it's the way I was taught to do it, the way that we do it, where you actually change the reveals of your clapboard to make up for the different heights of your windows and doors, so you don't have that notch. So I couldn't tell you, I haven't climbed up on that roof to measure what that one is compared to the rest of the house.
So the color being proposed for this product is a dark color. Then we don't certainly dictate color, but is the garage addition being painted at the same time? That color?
He would paint, depending on approval of this product, he would either, in the total cost, we would either then come again in front of the board next year to do that garage with the similar product, or he would hire a painter to change the garage addition to match the
Addition isn't
existing.
that old, is the covered on that addition that bad?
No, but I will say, and I know you guys have been around for a while in this area, but it's all the pre-primed trim that had the finger joints in it. It's all blown apart. I mean, I don't know how well you went and looked at it, but it was like, an epidemic around here because everybody got it from Halls, and it was this product that's constantly failed. So all the trim on the addition is that finger jointed product. And the wood, I don't know what they use. I wasn't involved in the project or the build when it was all done. So, but it's certainly failing already in quite a few spots considering how new it is.
And the paint is failing as well.
And
Mhm.
the proposed is the rough,
No, smooth, everything, it's on your notes there too, but the siding and the trim would be the smooth, product. That some of the pictures probably just show the wood grain, but
Would you go with the smooth?
yeah, no, everything would be the smooth, because like I said, there still will be some, if we go ahead with this, some wood components, because we just can't emulate those moldings currently with the synthetic or engineered products.
Since the garage was 2009.
That sounds about right. So, he's been there a good 20 years or so, probably at this point, or close to it. That was all the current owners did that. Just-
2009.
do either Daves have any questions?
I'm not opposed to re-siding as long as it looks proper, because it's new materials. And it appears the way this system is designed, that it's gonna breathe and last, like they say.
I was concerned, just something to throw out there. I met with the company. I had their reps come to my shop the other day. They're really making a lot of inroads in the New England area, offering more and more traditional product. I mean, I'm not gonna say every house is gonna be sided, but it seems to be taking more and more of the market share, in more historic areas. So
With the product, virtually the appearance is gonna be the same.
yeah, I mean, I know you guys are saying you could tell the difference, and you could, I would say 5 feet away. Listen, opinions. My opinion is from the street, you wouldn't know.
You can.
But I'm not trying to argue, but how would you know?
A lot of it depends on how observant you are.
But tell me,
People don't
with
see that
your
well.
observance, how would you know that it was the
Okay,
difference?
Adam, it's not
But
a
for
debate.
argument's sake,
No, but yeah, you're telling me that you would see it there. I'm just asking, what about it would you say that's
for
different?
argument's sake, roofs have changed. We're not using original roofing anymore.
These are wearable materials,
Right.
wearable surfaces. It's also historic material. We don't have any historic roofs left in the village, and if we
Right.
did, we'd care about
I
them.
mean,
We do have
like
historic sites.
Spurbex has been resided in the very similar. Spurbex has been resided in a very similar, they used a different product, but the same type of thing. You're telling me when you go up to that, like, I guess, what about the siding do you find that it looks so different than a traditional clapboard when it's
Over a
installed?
window, would you fan this? Would you change the spacing so that it landed where you
Yes,
wanted to, or would
exactly.
you not? change?
No, I would change it. I would make it so there would be different reveals for the clapboard based on the openings.
To my
correct?
eye, it's mostly that it's so regular and monolithic kind of compared to what looks like a wood product on the side of a building. It could be the only challenge to tell is like what kind of composite product is it made of, but
Yeah,
that's not an
listen.
argument, but you asked.
No, I'm open to hear,
You can
I'm
spot.
curious just to hear what about it would make it
If you
look.
walk down the street, you can pick them out. You know which ones have been done and which ones haven't, not because of their history or oxidation, but because they just look different.
I don't, it's a tough thing to kind of, but, okay.
But anyway, yeah, I'm done.
Claire, do you have any questions or comments? No. And Dave?
No.
Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion? No.
Move that H bar provides certificate of appropriateness for the project at 40 Walnut Street on the criteria 2B, 2C, 3A, and 3C. I'll second.
Thank you, Dave. Any discussion?
It's not time for something.
Remember, you have a late lunch on each property. Okay, Liz votes no.
Bessie votes no.
Aye. Yes.
I vote yes. You, Adam?
Thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot, Adam.
All right. 7 South Avenue siding. Would you like to talk to us?
Hello.
Hi there. So we removed existing aluminum siding. Have you removed it yet to see what things look like underneath?
Looks like nothing underneath.
There's virtually nothing underneath.
There's nothing underneath. There's like a sheet of some,
Front of the building, the main block, there's nothing underneath it.
we looked in the back where it's up.
I know,
There was nothing underneath, and I had refinished a room inside on the side, and there was nothing underneath that either.
Yeah, there's no sheeting, no planks, I mean,
Oh, and Jack saw it
Yeah,
also.
but the place that.
We
you
were
pulled
looking
it
in the
up-
back and
the
Jessica's
place I
asking
can see
about
where
other
you pull it
locations.
up, that's actually a newer section of the building, it's not the original period.
it's really, there's no, like, it's really, there's no energy efficiency as well.
There's no insulation, nothing.
So you're telling us that the aluminum is actually directly on the spokes on the exterior of the building?
And so, I mean, I can't say for the entire structure, but for the structure, the part of the structure that I looked at, yes.
And when did you look, what part did you look at? The reason I've got a question, the reason I'm asking this is because when I look at that building, what I see is an early aluminum siding episode. You've seen the movie Tin Man? It's an old Danny DeVito movie about guys who went around and sold aluminum siding door to door, the way the vinyl guys did door to door in the 70s.
I understand.
And the front of the building, they made a very big point of picking out that deep freeze on the front. They very carefully, tried to mimic what they were covering, I would have guessed, rather than what they were replacing.
I mean, before, I mean, I can send you the exact measurements of the home, pictures, I have all of that, I've never been in front of.
Do you have
the
any
board.
on your phone right now you can show us?
My phone is actually in my truck
Do that?
by
Measurements of the
the
home.
lake,
Pictures.
so.
Oh, I've
I
pictured,
raced
yeah.
here,
You got-
I wasn't digging. And I've never actually been in front of the board, so I didn't know how much information we needed to bring. So.
Everything picked out, but with all those resources, and Yankee Brothers, I think, were a change. But it just struck me that they were mimicking what's underneath, but maybe it's just unusual with that much color.
I get you. There is, I mean, before I do a job, I don't pull apart all the siding and every part of the house because it's a big liability. For me, as a contractor, it's a big liability.
Yeah,
I mean, I would probably sue if I did that at some point in time.
Yes, the siding is there underneath, but.
So we renovated a room over by the bay window there.
Okay, bay window is added later. Bay window.
And that room had nothing.
Was it a room behind the bay window?
There is a good chance there
I can
is
show you some.
original wooden horizontal side.
That's what I'm.
There's, I would put them on. However, I can't remove multiple sections of the house to pick. Unless I do the job, which is impossible. But there is, from my understanding, it's very.
Well, no, I mean, they don't have a dimension for everything.
No, I mean, they don't go to storage.
Yeah,
What is the village? Let's wait, as a new contractor, what is the village?
So this is on the website with the application, with the checklist for what we look for with the different applications, you know, which board you have to go to.
What's in the village, like, what's the good, like, composite or cement board siding the village will approve?
It's a case by case, we don't make a general. And what we like to see, because this is district, is the preservation of original materials, and that house would have originally been a wood building.
So if we did like so if we did like a hardy, so say if we did like a hardy horizontal lat, would that be something that we're?
That's the main.
I know, but
concern,
this,
whether or not
the,
there's
the
a
old- the
start.
original siding is gonna be 100% deteriorated.
No,
because-
But if, but if,
Yes,
but if
yes.
there is like
Yes, sir.
original siding on like a third or like 40% of the house and the rest of it is not.
That's all,
it's all gonna be, it's all gonna be rough cut.
Fine, can't get that any longer.
It's gonna all be rough cut or.
It's all gonna be, it's
Rough
all
cut?
gonna be fast grown southern pines.
Right, so we couldn't match the rest of the house to it.
I think not knowing what's under there is the question that makes it
Well, you just
difficult.
answered your question, nothing.
But they haven't really pulled off much.
I
of it.
can't-
Well, you can't pull up all the siding to answer that
I know.
question.
But the question remains, what's underneath it?
I mean, I've been doing this for about 10 years. I mean, when you pull off vinyls, like old aluminum vinyl siding, even, or just aluminum siding, many times the boards, they're different widths. I mean, they put whatever they had on the structure. I mean, I can't pull off every piece of siding to see what's underneath around the entire structure. It's just, I mean, that it would cost me $2,000 to do the estimate for a job I don't even know if I'm gonna get.
Right.
Right.
It's just the truth.
Is your goal to reside this year? Is that?
Yes.
And you're getting on his schedule and you have the materials?
The problem is lead times on materials. Right now, Hardy's going out about 6 months. I like to use Hardy because there's a lot of options with Hardy. You can make it look very pretty, you can make it look historical. It's expensive, but my mother has Hardy on her house, she lives on Hayden Hollow. I've done Hardy on her barn and her house.
Well, just done in Hardy.
It's a really nice,
But you're talking about smart side, so this is not.
well, either or, but I won't, it's an option. We just want to see what the board would approve and what is available. I mean, lead times are very different depending on each building material. I mean, it's the only building material I can get within a week is roofing material.
Well, it's good news for somebody who has a leak in their roof, right?
I don't feel bad for anybody that has that kind of news.
I know, I'm kidding.
Since you have since you obviously have an insulation problem, are you considering doing that together, and have you done an energy audit to find out what would make sense relative to residing the building?
The plan, if we did do the siding, would be to do like 2-inch insulation board around the house.
And what about the roof cavity?
Continuous insulation on the exterior of the frame.
Yes. I just don't know, I mean, as you know, it's tough to know what you're gonna get into until you rip off the siding, because you don't know. I can tell you one thing, if the house, I guarantee all the horizontal planks aren't gonna be exact. If there are horizontal planks, and then the section that we did look on didn't have any.
Yep.
That was, as you said, a newer part. However, it's impossible to tell until you rip off the entire structure. And Adam's gonna spend a fortune this year, especially with the price of gas, if he doesn't do some kind of insulation measure. I mean, it's just, it's a matter of fact.
But an energy audit would give you some ideas about some concrete ideas. If you haven't done the roof cavity and your rim joist, those are the huge ones.
Sure.
But, and if you're gonna do this kind of work, it's good to piggyback them, it makes it much faster. You don't have to, there's no retrofitting involved. You just work your way through it. Just a question, because your walls lose heat, but it's your roof and your floor and your rim joists that lose most of your heat.
Well, the roof isn't brand new.
No, it's the insulation, how insulated is your roof? Because, so those are questions to ask, but we're talking about siding. I think be really interested, I mean, can you do it side by side, I suppose? You have to order, do you order the whole thing all at once?
The lead times, last year I did my mother's house, she was in Millville. The lead time was 6 months on, it was vertical board and batten, and it took 6 months for me to get the siding. So, I mean, time is of the essence at this point in time.
And this would be clappers with corner boards on it and water table board.
I mean, it would
A deep
be,
freeze that matches the deep freeze that was clearly defined in the original.
I mean, I don't know what the original looks like because it's under vinyl or aluminum, but.
Well, we can make a pretty good guess because of what they did with the aluminum when they put it up. They picked out that deep freeze in the peak on the front and on the sides.
I will say as a contractor, you don't know what you're gonna get into until you rip it off. I don't mean to be rude, I'm just being honest.
As someone who studies buildings, what I can tell you is that's likely what was there because of the period when.
I hope you're right. I
It
really
may not be
don't know.
there at all anymore, but that's what
Yeah.
would have been there and that would be
Sure.
appropriate, rather than bringing it directly up and just putting a bed molding on.
No,
So
I
the
understand.
question is then with the picture Adam has, which Jesse is saying is probably pretty much what was historic.
Mhm.
Do you plan to replicate the trim boards, the frieze, like the picture?
And we can walk up and down the street and the street that it's on and also my street, which is perpendicular to the
Sure.
street. And you can see what the traditional system is. So you want, and that's what this house would have had. Whether you find that underneath when it's actually built or not, when you actually strip it off.
So you're saying you want it to look just like this?
No,
not
she wants
this
it to look like whatever.
Whatever that aluminum siding is over. So what I'm saying- I think my guess is that what you had when the house was built, was you had a deep freeze underneath the peak. And there were those corner boards that came down here, that would have been very similar in width to the window casings, so those would have been the same width. In part because that's the way stuff was machined, it was easy to set up, you did it once and done, right? And so, and then the siding would have come in like this, and it should be horizontal siding, and then the doors, something's happened to your front door, not sure what, and that's why the window in the front is not what was there to start with. But what I'm saying is that, you want to sort of, that deep freeze and the corner boards are really, those are defining, that's what the house would have had when it was built. And the person who put the aluminum on went that far, they didn't go to the corner because they used those little clips that went through the whole. But, and it's a really old aluminum siding job, it's like right after World War II.
We're about when I was born.
You're not that old.
Maybe when your mom was born.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I mean, this is like. So it's a really, right, it doesn't, it's pretty awful, so, but when you go to change it out, there's.
Would the board be opposed to doing like a shape from up from?
It's
I'm just asking, I'm just curious.
It's not appropriate to the style of the house, or the period. And when you get the siding off, you're gonna find not rough cut clapboards, you're gonna find some clapboards. The condition is to be determined. But you will find, I would have been shocked if they had stripped the house of the clapboards before they put the aluminum up. And that would partially explain why you don't feel like you have any insulation, which is a material away. But there would not have been shakes or shingles.
No, I didn't assume there was shakes or shingles, I was just asking if the board would be.
Like that.
Similar, yeah, the Yankee gutters, I have a question about those, I don't think those are part of the original screen, but
You don't want to replicate those.
no, you do not.
Well, there's no Yankee gutters on the house now.
I have.
There's no, yeah, but there's no.
But not on top.
Here's originally they were. Most of the houses. last time, probably the last time it worked.
So, I mean, the great surprise would be is if you start removing aluminum and find cloud resistance conditions. And would encourage you to keep that. This board would not argue with that, and, you know, ultimately, Wallet might not argue with that either. But in terms of LP Smart siding versus hardy board siding, it should be smooth, not textured. And the goal would be to replicate the common trim that is seen, what you might find underneath that siding, what they tried to replicate with that siding, and looking around the neighborhood at similar houses with similar trim. No, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it has been a very long day. Does Dave have any comments? Cleo, do you have any comments? Would anybody like to make a motion?
To replace, to remove the current siding and install new LP siding that replicates the old siding or hardy. If that's okay with the board.
With the understanding of the trim and the detail.
Sure, we'll keep we'll keep all the trim, the detail the same. We just want to make it more cost effective over time as well as efficient.
So, Adam, I just encourage you as the siding comes off, and since you know it's going to either be replaced, that you might take it off and see what the covers look like. That would be something I would encourage you to do either way before you order the siding, if you're going to replace it anyway.
But what if he takes it off and there is no siding?
Or it's all rotten. Interior.
Okay, take a little bit off and find out if there's no siding.
With all due respect, there's no way but taking off a small section, you'll know.
Okay.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I know it's just a suggestion. We hope that you'll find a lot of fun with that.
I hope you're right.
The condition is really undeterminate until you take it off, but anyway, so the smooth, whether it's LP or hardy board, trim appropriate to that, if you're not finding evidence on the house, similar structures. And that would be, any changes in that approach would come back as a field change. Does anybody, I'm not making the motion, somebody else can. I'm articulating what I see as parameters, you know, as the chair. So if anybody else would like to make a
Well,
motion?
make a motion, just whatever, it's just said.
I mean, I think I'll get what is possible. Determine what you want me to.
But you understand that, you know, when you get it off, and
I still don't want to get what's doing, so I'm, but I will all the time, I just don't want to get possible.
I guess the question I have is, do you stockpile material or do you order job by job?
I mean, I don't have $2 million sitting there to keep Hardy on. Hardy's about 400 bucks.
And then what?
I own a company.
Okay. You got a lot of different stuff.
I do a lot of roofs, but I do siding as well. And, do a lot of work, honestly. A lot of work in the Catskills mainly. Let's say people moving up here and they come spend their money on.
start pulling that siding off, and you find a bunch of pristine siding. Please give us a call when you start.
Yeah,
You certainly don't need to scale change to preserve frontage.
No, I want to keep it as historical as possible, aesthetic-wise, and I want to make it as efficient as possible for Adam as a homeowner.
And that's where.
And I know the neighbors should appreciate the new aesthetic of the building as well. As well as all your.
Yeah.
We hate to see the house grant a park for
No, I get it. I'm realistic about that. Yeah. But if it's a blue chart, it's
Remove half the siding, damage it, and then try to put it back on.
No, we're not suggesting.
If I don't even have to sign a contract. It's very. We will make sure to do that. That's okay. I promise.
Yes, there's a couple people in the village who've taken that down. That's what else.
Sometimes it isn't, like, I mean, as a painter, you understand, sometimes it's not.
We did, and we got lucky.
I hope we get what we did in the 50s.
Yeah, yeah, that would, that's the, that's the.
they did fine.
Not that much, but I mean,
Good. We already know. Okay, so Dave made a motion, kind of. Does anybody want, I'm teasing you. I'm teasing you. Does anybody want to second the motion? Okay, Dave seconds the motion. That's Dave Sturgas. Any other discussion? Okay. Anybody like to vote?
I'll vote yes. Come down the street when you start taking off. I always like to see what's underneath. I don't think difficult.
You have permission to do this. We're just encouraging you, if for some reason you get the gift of original clapboards in good condition.
Or if you have stuff that's in bad condition, but you can see on that. Then you'll have the information.
the only problem was, I mean, we're not gonna start ripping it up until we have to reorder all the material.
But that's one of the.
No,
Yeah.
I guess I just.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the only thing that we unusual conventionally.
No, I get it.
You can do it.
I'm hoping I don't run into any terrible problems.
That was not a historic building.
That's why I really stick like.
And then those places in the Catskills where they don't have pesky zoning boards and HBAR boards, and you can do whatever you want.
My name's James Neering. NERNG.
Good luck.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm very curious to see what's under there.
I did have another question about the roof on 81 Chestnut Street.
Yeah, I know, that's why you're, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate this.
Bye, Adam.
And I'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thanks.
They are interesting. I haven't filled in paperwork. I just wanted to inquire. I wasn't big into anything. I think we need to be honest with you, but I did. Their siding is really deteriorated. I mean, it's half is rotten. They have cedar shake. Like they like this.
Do you have a picture on your phone?
Yeah, it's I literally. Yeah, I literally sprinted here trying. I didn't know how long.
The house between the cats
And the Leonardo stuff. They have the shade siding at piece, and the gable ones, and then they have the horizontal web siding. They want to do some type of like party. They wanted to do shade, replicate the same exact. Yeah, I was clear. Knowledge. But they wanted to do the shakes the same exact way. I mean, most of their siding is completely deteriorated and rotten. Really, I can go there and check, it's bad. I mean, it's. But they wanted to get permission to, put a hardy on the whole entire house and replicate exactly what they have with hardy. But I wanted to bring it up to the board.
Well, we highly recommend, number one, they have to apply, so then get on the agenda for the meeting for which they apply for, but we highly recommend homeowner. So it was good that Adam.
Yeah, he's an open heart surgeon, so he's really busy. Like he's never around, like he's in New York City right now. But he wanted me to like advocate for him and ask questions. I knew I was gonna try to be there and thankfully I am, but I wanted to just bring it up to the board and discuss it.
You've heard a lot about siding tonight, so you know our preference is preserving material. But we make a decision on a case by case
Yeah,
basis.
their siding is, I can send you all pictures. Is there an email I can send pictures?
And once it's on our agenda, we can look at it.
I mean, like I do siding in the winter. It's not like it's a rust. Their roof was in bad shape there. Insurance company was giving them a lot of issues. That's why I rushed the roof and I did as quickly as I could. It was.
Yeah. Once DiMaggio found
They were, I mean, it's in really rough shape for siding, I mean, especially its siding walls and the bottom parts, because they have really, inefficient gutters. I mean, it's really deteriorated badly. I mean, it would cost a fortune to replace all of that and scrape it. I mean, it's maybe for removing all those big parts of it, especially the big ones. That side of I mean, I will apply for it next meeting. I don't
and let our application go through again, Jackson, that we can have. Yeah.
I have 100 pictures.
And what we would encourage is ideally, if it's isolated sections around where the gutters and roof line, et cetera.
It's pretty much, honestly, the side is falling off the house. It's not, I mean, it's in, they're honestly ashamed of it right now.
Like I said, I've walked by it for years and I thought that street looks great until you get to that.
Well, the roof looks really nice. I got you.
Are you strictly roof and siding, or are you interior structural, or?
Pretty much do whatever, but I like to stick to exterior work. I do mostly siding during the winter time because I can't do. I mean, I can do metal layovers depending on what county we're in. Like I can do barns. It depends on it depends, but I like to stick to siding during the late fall, winter. Interior work we can find, but like roofing start from honestly late February all the way to December.
Yeah, it's very just spread all of this crew, confusing.
No, I mean, I have about 130.
Yeah.
We're doing a lot of work. I partnered with an Ecuadorian gentleman, my chemical company, and we partnered up. I have about 40 guys, and he has about 75, so.
It's full enough guys to do the job there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're, and all the guys that work I'm manufacturer certified, year warranty on shingles, 40 on metal. It's impressive. I'm happy with
the results so far. I used to work for another company out of Sydney, and I didn't like their business practices, so I started my own company.
You live here?
I do, I mean, technically I live on Hayden Hollow,
Right.
but I run a guest house, when I live with my girlfriend. I just help her out with her work. It's tough when you get 65, you know, I mean, money coming in. Good for you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I also wanted to inquire, the house on Chestnut, their windows are very, very, very outdated. What would be, if I reached out to a company, what would be an acceptable, I know from my understanding, talking to other contractors in town, you want all wooden frame windows.
We really encourage people to look at window restoration first.
I mean, they're just really, the energy efficiency is like,
It's, that again goes to the energy audit and determining where the energy efficiency.
I'm just
issues
inquiring
are.
because I don't have prior knowledge on that.
Why don't you reach out by email?
I was thinking on the info by tomorrow.
And they are available on the list. Right.
I'm definitely not gonna do
Well,
it.
I thought this is really pain in the butt.
Always consider architectural fabric. But also repairability and paintability. And many new windows can be painted, but there are very few new windows that can actually be repaired.
I mean, their windows are gonna be
Made
made
of other materials.
they're like single pane windows, I mean, they're old windows, like they're really good.
Those can often be restored very well. You put a storm sash on the
Some will
outside.
be better than
and
new
then-
windows. Yeah.
So besides restoring windows, would the board be opposed to replacing them? What would be a good option if there was a consideration of replacing them with a more energy efficient window?
It's a good option. In other words, good window.
Okay. No vinyl. So Anderson is really nice. That expense.
Depends on their grade. I mean, they have multiple grade windows.
Okay. I mean, I'm gonna do my homework and I'll do my research and just really, but this is like one job out of 100 that I'm dealing with.
No, and what you need to think about is the windows that are in there, you know, it has to be good replacement in terms of the light configuration
Sure.
and things like that.
And
And
it's just, I just, for the homeowners, once it's stated, we put, party on that structure. Replacing the windows after you put party on, it's just impossible. You're gonna break the party. Yes, it's just really difficult from my experience. There's things, it's, I don't know, there's things I like about it, and there's things I don't. I don't think. From just, my mother has party on her garage, and the garage is older than I am. And it hasn't had to be painted at all, or there's no maintenance on it at all. LP, I don't think it's gonna last as long as Hardy. And Hardy is a lot more expensive, and the lead times are a lot longer as well. I just want to inquire about the windows just because I was. Yeah,
yeah, it's really, when you have an application put
No,
together.
I will, I mean, I wasn't prepared to do that tonight, but I appreciate your time and all the consideration and all the, information. Just like to meet you all.
Welcome to working in Cooperstown. Thank you. Okay, thank you for your patience, Dan. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was only seeing Dan here. Okay. So,
Homeowner was actually going to comment, he ended up being sick. So,
okay. Okay, added to the agenda.
Still have more items that are on the agenda. Either decide to pass on, one we do not have a representative from, the other one, the representative is in California. That was on speakerphone, but it's a request for a demolition of a structure, that would be the 26th Walnut. So I don't know if we need to hear from the homeowner or.
Are they requesting demolition of the whole house?
Yep.
And
And the application has a narrative from a carpenter, it's not the same individual. So this is that contact is in the application.
why don't we, since, if everybody has the stamina, since Nick is here, why don't we talk to Nick about his application, and then we can deal with the other two. Okay. 18 Main Street.
It's actually right next door.
Yeah, it's right next door.
It is next door. Shall we go walk over and take a look?
It's actually, I did mention the wall status close to the application.
Yeah, you can give me that, that would be great. Yeah, because it's hard to.
I looked at that, so we knew else that was actually going to come and start getting sick. So I kind of rushed here and so I went very rapid. So yeah, I'm here to have the room. So what he wants to do, the house next door, it has brick parapet. And essentially there's a one-story addition, the other one ends with that. But on the main section of the house, he wants to get rid of the parapet, which is what was done at some point in the past to the other house attached to it. And essentially his reason for wanting so is he's had a lot of maintenance issues with the brick on both the roof line. The brick's falling, failing, and he basically just wants to get rid of the parapet. And in terms of detailing, presumably he would, if he could make the condition, I'm assuming he would just match the detailing on the adjacent house in terms of trim reveal. So yeah, that's the application in a nutshell. And then in this third photo there, you have a better overall photo of the building, seeing the parapet.
Those, for some reason, they were put up to divide the properties. It's nothing structural. It was just decorative.
Decorative. Well, actually, I'm curious what's causing the brick to be failing above the roof line. I haven't specifically. In terms of moisture, he did have the flashing and everything on top of the parapets replaced quite a while ago, and all of that looks great. Thanks for all of it. Could be he's had it repaired a bunch of times, and I think he's just sort of frustrated and wants to argue. That's a good question. I don't know.
So does he know that the parapet was removed from 18?
Yeah. So he does know a parapet was removed from the main right now. But he's happy.
Is it, I mean, the parapet between the two structures that was removed?
So the one that has a lot of these that are up.
Okay. Just don't see one in this older picture either. That looks like.
You really,
The proposal is to take off the step table.
he wants to remove the parapet and he wants. And the parapet on the adjacent house, the attached house, was removed at some point in the past. He wants to essentially remove the parapet on his building to match it, but mostly because he's been having a lot of maintenance issues with the brick above the roof line falling. But he has done that several times. I'm not sure
I'm not as familiar with the project, know what's causing it, I'm actually kind of curious, but. Yeah. Essentially what he's asking for. He would leave the parapet on the one-story addition.
Federal townhouses have on them.
No, absolutely. The top parapet, yeah. That's very well. For sure. You don't see this one? Yeah, the big one, the tall one. And that's what he wants to essentially do. Is make it match that. So here in that house, the white one, at some point.
Those houses were built with the idea that that Main Street would be lined with those.
Okay.
I mean, it's very early. It's the point when someone thought that Cooperstown was going to be a place.
Yes.
A place. And there would be townhouses. In the streets, all under federal area, townhouse, single basement, sidewall entry.
Yep.
And step parapet with the chimney.
No, absolutely.
So the intent, the expectation was that, you know, it was going to be going this way, but.
So you can actually see it from here.
No.
I was curious.
I'm also not so excited. There are concerns. Oh, and where that pushes your.
Like that too, like what you call it. Because it's specifically the area where the bridges will open on both sides, where it's failing. So I'm curious what's causing that.
And why isn't it failing on the other side? You know? Well, it's an interior wall, but it's still above the roof line. So,
Also, whatever moisture.
yeah.
It's interesting, it could be, I'm wondering if the building was ever like improperly insulated or something, who knows? A lot of times, I know you're not supposed to like spray foam historic brick building, well, that causes a bunch of issues.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Clearly, at some point in the past, that could have happened. That's a tough one, I know.
I'm very reluctant to say. This is my job. I'd like to know why.
I think if he were here, what he would probably say is that he has had it repaired and rebuilt so many times, and it keeps happening. And so
Because you're not repairing the underlying problem, you're just covering it up.
it's possible.
Yeah. I mean, whatever the underlying, I mean, it survived a long period of time before someone did something and they started. And it's an interim thing that has happened to it.
And
Now,
construction.
it is now causing a problem.
Right.
But what's the point? I mean, for a long time, it lasted just a year.
And has it been a problem since they own the structure and maybe it was some before they own the
Or maybe,
structure?
and they also need to work on that building. Maybe that's yeah, we may have done something when they did their work, because they did.
I would say, before some of the repair, you have to take them down to the roof level.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And they're, yeah, at this point, the condition of the bricks behind coding is
They're repairing them.
they're gone. They're just powder.
So the chimneys will remain.
Yep. And you would match the detailing to the attached structure. I would presumably make that a condition. I don't think he included that in his application, but I would be applying that. Okay, yeah, we walked through, he's there. Okay, perfect.
We don't know when the attached structure has a fair second. Lord knows.
Who let them But before that, there was another committee, right? Yeah. Right, I'm guessing, there was another board before the charter.
Yeah.
Which you were on, that's what I'm looking at, right now.
I was on it back in the 90s. But it's, what brought this in was the historical connection, because we're a CLG before we were. First by local government.
I can't remember where it was probably there. Does anybody want to make a motion in either direction?
Move the work. The match, the east side of the adjoining building.
Both of them.
Even the one on the lower level.
Okay.
Just the upper one. Yeah. I think that was.
Yeah, sorry.
Is that, oh, I would check the application, actually, I'm not sure.
No, I think that,
I believe it is staying, I think that one is.
because then you have to get your.
Yeah, that one's staying, that's the neighbor and some other. Follow things that there's people for. Oh, for sure, I'm actually very curious. I have seen it done where if the brick building is painted with the wrong kind of paint, suffocates the brick.
This one looks like it was coated with something.
It was coated, the coating is supposed to be breathable, from what I understand. I don't know for sure, I'm not sure, I'm not sure, that was before my time, so I don't know who put that up. But the wrong type of coating can certainly cause havoc.
Right there.
Anybody want to second that motion? Any discussion?
I'm curious to see what buzz.
Yeah,
Yeah, whether it's the interior, the wall, the
like improper insulation or
shot or
something.
something. You know, could they just filled with rubble and stuff and then.
Well,
just let
the
it somewhere
insulation
push
got
there,
tightened.
just pushing it out, and it's a pretty. Small building. I agree, right, the outside. Building, you're only driving the outside. Right, that includes like the entirety of what on the left basement, so all the way out. Right.
So you're telling me I have to love my wet basement?
You can hold a drink in your wet basement.
No, we have tried so much in our wet basement. Yeah.
Right up stone wall.
We're ready to turn it into a swimming pool. So let's go wet basement. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to change subject. Just the science of it.
Yeah.
Anyhow, okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second? Now we need, we have discussed wet basements. I'm sorry, we're a little. It only takes us another hour before we get this silly, guys, you know, it's been a long day already. Okay, may we have a vote now?
All right. I don't know if I find anything out about what caused it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Curious,
Oh, very good.
Give us pictures of what it looks like on the inside. And maybe what insulation they use inside. I don't know.
Yeah, and we don't deal with a lot of masonry.
It's not really a brick building that has sort of a disease like that. I think it'd be really, really hard.
Well, I hope
to
this
handle.
resolves the problem, doesn't.
For sure.
And then some of the deeper,
Yeah, no, for sure.
I do it.
Yes. All right, have a good evening.
Yes, we thank you for your patience. Okay. So 26, well, we're jumping around. Number 7 is the one we need to set a public hearing for the demolition on, correct?
No.
We are still at number 6. We
Okay.
have an application with no representation.
Okay.
So it's up to the board. Go through that, as per-
A lot of stuff to go through.
Without a,
And they've actually already taken the roof off. If they're talking about.
They have a leak in the roof.
And they got, it doesn't look like a roof, the application is with, it's not a tree looking valve. Wondering what they're gonna get. But they've already taken the roof off. So,
And application with
yeah, we're kind of happy with that.
so they took out the metal roof. They want to replace it with the shingle roof.
just any skylights.
We're
It's just
not
asphalt or asphalt.
We're not talking, we're just giving asphalt to the front, you know, that's right.
So are people comfortable approving the roof replacement since we're kind of up against the wall with that one in discussing the skylight and asking the representative to be here to discuss the window removal and replacement and the railing change, which I don't see.
It's a wrought iron railing.
Okay.
It's a very
Okay.
straightforward product.
Right.
A couple of twists.
Do we have details on the window replacement, Jackson, other than the location?
The window is removed. They wish to be removed to change the flow in a bedroom and have get more lighting.
Okay, so it's to be removed, not replaced, okay.
Correct.
That's in the back of the building.
And the neighbors got it.
The house is a funny house.
Yeah.
Is there? To this type of roofing, or is it just?
Not-
It's a change in nature.
I mean, most everything in the house is covered with that.
I agree. Help them navigate some way. Call me and say, hey, my roof is leaking out, we can make it really bad.
Very well cared for a very long time.
Yeah, the images that you shared were patched. Very patched up. You can see on the very last page where the window would be removed and the skylight would be replaced.
Do we know they're going to, where the window gets removed, fill in with siding to match?
Not to.
Yes, but maybe if we do a motion. I would assume that we should articulate it in a motion. I agree, but let's leave nothing to chance, right?
motion regarding the proposed change in roofing materials, the addition of the skylight, and do we have specs on the skylight?
It does say remove it on the door.
Great, okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the application for 3 Elm Street. Replacement of the roofing. So it's just that intersection, right?
The entire roof.
And remove the window. All windows indicated. And re-sign it to match existing siding. And installation of a skylight. And removal of the wrought iron railing. There's similar.
Any discussion? Liz votes yes.
Yes.
And he's got the glasses. The glasses.
No, that's,
That's a hall, next one down from the hall. Like set that.
Wait.
We're just looking at that.
Okay, now number 7, the request for the demolition permit. So we need to set a public hearing regarding the demolition.
I was asked to call the representative while we were making.
We really have to meet today.
No, just because we just set a public hearing. But the homeowner, the property owner should, you know, the person's representative, but I do with the property owner should sign it. Right, okay.
I think the trust property is an investment property and just covers that. The question, my follow-up question to it is, are they just going to clear the lot or are they going to do something else? Because if you clear the lot, that's eroding our tax base. But when you start knocking buildings down, tax base first, the tax to be spread out. Everybody else in the village has to add something to their taxes if you remove the tax.
Right, of development plan.
I didn't have an inspection before we bought the building, the question I would have. Why would you buy something if you hadn't had an inspection?
Yeah.
Maybe there's something, I mean, this would be a law change, obviously, or ordinance change, but if you ask to demolish something that is a taxable property, that you make some sort of commitment ahead of time that you are going to put something about. I'm not sure what the story is, I haven't had a close look, I mean, that building is pretty bad. It wasn't a great building to start with, and it's been sort of, people have worked on it, it's kind of been sort of this thing of making itself first out of the saladier. The house is a saladier, and people have poured money into it very early on, at least 2 episodes. I know I lived down.
You're saying it's still in that.
Well, that's what they're saying now. I mean, it pretty much sits flat on the ground. I don't want to do like it. And I don't know what it's origin.
But anyways, like I said, we're not doing that right now.
So we put a date for next time.
Yes. So we just need a motion to set a public hearing regarding the demolition, proposed demolition of 26 Walnut Street. Let's see, so you have David Strogatz and Chelsea Ravage as our first and second. All in favor? Aye. Where's my heart? Is there a motion for that? August, oh, good. It's 2020. We'll get to spend it together. Also the fair, it's supposed to be at. Sure. Okay. You think, is it helping? And are people respecting?
This seems to be, the applications seem to be better organized than again. Some of you would just get into the weeds very easily. I know that's part of the problem.
They're getting free consulting, Jesse.
Well, you know, I have talked with a few contractors in town who said there's a place for someone who actually pay and put it out before it went, but I realized that's a conflict of interest in this particular instance, so I wondered about taking that on and moving ahead.
We'll start passing it out at every meeting. Oh, yes, if you approve the minutes of the last meeting. Thank you.
Marcia, you feel very about getting it into something that looks like it wants to complete.
Dave seconded.
Yeah.
Okay. Dave Stanford approved, Stanford and and all in favor? Thank you, good job.
We're not doing a nightmare as well.